Shalom.
Shalom, family.
This one is going to be titled Leading by the Ruach. Should you get a home mortgage? Basically, I got a letter from someone, and they were inquiring about, they had gotten a home mortgage, and were they following the Ruach, and we kind of want to give our testimony. I'll tell you what we'll do first, though. We're going to look up the word mortgage and see what it means.
Yes.
Okay? And we did so. And I'll let Deborah read this.
Okay, the word mortgage is derived from a law French term used by the English lawyers in the Middle Ages, meaning death pledge, and refers to the pledge ending, dying, with either the obligation is fulfilled or the property is taken through foreclosure. Wow. So mortgage basically means death pledge.
Death pledge.
Notice the first four letters of mortgage, mort.
Mortify.
Mortify.
Means death. Yeah.
Mortician.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a death pledge. So the mort is basically dealing with death.
That's right.
And that's what it feels like when you enter into a mortgage.
Yes.
You feel like your life is no longer yours because you are fighting to pay that debt.
That's right.
That mortgage, that monthly obligation.
That's right. It's amazing is I remember when me and my wife had a mortgage on a home when we lived in Michigan. And, man, I can't tell you the stress that we felt having to be obligated to such a huge payment every month. It was really horrible. The pressure was horrible, and it was just horrible. And so when the Most High, we prayed. We said, Father God, I need to understand what was going on. And so He started showing me certain scriptures in the Bible. And one of the scriptures He showed me, I'm going to share these scriptures with you. And one of the scriptures was this one here in Proverbs. It says, Proverbs 22, verse 7. It says, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender.
Yes.
So when I saw that one scripture, I was like, oh man, you a servant, a slave is what that means to the lender. So when I saw that really bothered me. And then there was a commercial. My wife, it's funny is this commercial would come. I would get so upset because I didn't want to see that commercial because I knew we had this house. It was my dream home. We had a mortgage on it for a lot of money. And I did not want to leave that home. We had it built. And so this commercial come on where this guy was riding his lawnmower and he's talking about how he's in debt up to his eyeballs. And he's like riding around looking so calm, like, yeah, I got a nice car, nice home, nice lawn, all the stuff I got, riding lawnmower. But guess what? How do I do it? He said, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. And so when
he said, somebody help me.
Yeah, and so I would be sitting there when that commercial would come on. I'm telling you, it felt weird because the timing of it. My wife was like, "See," and I would be sitting there like, why did that commercial have to come on right now? And she's like, "See, I'm telling you, honey, this is like crazy the way we're living like this in debt up to our eyeballs and paying this mortgage." And I was like, I'll never forget. I went in the basement, and my wife wasn't around, nobody was around. And I looked at the house and all the work I did. I was like, yeah, what was all this for? What was it? I thought this was your will, But the Most High revealed to me that He allowed me to go down that path to teach me a lesson.
But what I find amazing, though,
Wow.
we can't forget this very important part of all of this. There's a picture. Where is that picture?
I'm going to get it. Go ahead.
Okay. There's a picture that we got back before they had the drones. There was a guy who had a helicopter, and he would go around and he would get aerial photos of a person's house. And he would come and knock on your door and ask you if you wanted to get an enlarged version of it. And because you're looking at your house, you're like, wow, how did you do that? And it looks so nice that we said, sure, we'll get one. And so we got this plaque of our house.
I can't find it.
Okay. Well, we got this plaque of our house. It was an aerial photo, and he just made it look really nice. So we were, happy to patronize his business, and we got it. And one day, okay, he found it. One day I was walking through the foyer of the house, and it's kind of funny, but it's almost as if I heard a voice speak to me and tell me to look at that picture closely. Can you put it a little closer, see if they can see the...
Oh, yeah, they can.
Okay. Well, anyway, I heard a voice tell me to look at that picture closely, and when I looked at the name tag on there, it said Banks Place. And right away, I noticed something. Our last name is Banks, right? But they have it spelled BANK''S.
Like it belonged to the bank.
Banks Place.
Yes.
That shows possession. And when I heard the voice speak to me, and I looked at the picture. Now some of you all don't hear the voice of Yah, so you probably think I'm crazy because I'm telling you I heard the voice of Yah, but I did. I heard the voice speak to me and tell me to look at that name. Yeah. I had walked past this picture hundreds of times.
Same here.
And I never noticed that, never paid attention to it. I'm walking past it one day, I hear a voice tell me to look at the plaque. I look at the plaque on the wall, and I look at the name, Banks Place, BANK''S. And I ran in there and I said, baby, this is not our house.
It's the bank's house.
This is the bank's house. He's like, what are you talking about?
I didn't want to hear it. I was like, no.
It's not our house. It's the bank's place.
Yeah.
It's the bank's place. I said, look at the plaque. It says BANK''S. I said, this house belongs to Washington Mutual.
Washington Mutual Bank.
That was our lender.
Yeah.
I said, that's who it belongs to. And the look on his face.
I know. When I went and saw the picture, I was like, it was almost like my dream was, everything was falling apart. I was like, oh man.
It was just more confirmation for me.
Yes. I was having a hard time.
Yes.
And so when I saw that, I was like, oh man, yeah, speak it. I knew it because I couldn't. This one was the one that I just could not ignore. I saw that apostrophe S. I was like, how could this knucklehead get it mixed up? Our name is Banks, BANK'S. You know? I said, how could he get it mixed up like that? Our name ain't Bank, you know? And so I felt like I was just scratching my head. I said,
apostrophe S.
Yes. And so I saw that whole thing. I knew what y'all was doing. I said, man, okay, he's trying to get me to not stay in this house. And he obviously don't want me to get a mortgage again. So I prayed. I said, Father, okay, if this is what you want, you don't want me to get a mortgage? I said, if you don't want me to get a mortgage, you're going to have to give me some money. Mm-hmm. I said, because in order to get us a house to where me and my family can go and live, you're going to have to open a door for us.
You know what's amazing? At the time that all of this was going down, we were broke. Mm-hmm. I think all we had in the bank was like $1,800. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say broke, because that didn't even cover our next month's payment. That's why I say broke. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so we were sitting there talking and praying and trying to figure things out. And of course we were doing things to where we could have gotten the money, but at that moment we didn't have it. Yeah. And we definitely didn't have money to buy another house. We definitely didn't have money for that. And so I remember we went into prayer, and the prayer was this. We said, Father, if you don't want us to have a mortgage, you got some work to do.
Yeah, you got some work to do.
You got to because we got to get out of this house. We can't keep living like this. Yeah. And so we need some money. We need some money to buy a house because we cannot afford to stay here. And we don't want to get another mortgage. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Before we decided not to get another mortgage, we were looking to try to get just a real cheap house, real cheap mortgage, and it was like every door was closed.
Yeah, every door.
Every door was closed, meaning we weren't able to get any type of company that would go that low, because banks, they don't like to give you a loan on a primary residence that's a fixer-upper that is under a certain amount, because we were looking like down in the 20s and 30s trying to find something.
Yeah.
And anything in that area, you're trying to go that low, it's like it's toe up from the flow up.
Yeah.
In the area of Michigan that we were living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did, we just kept praying. We said, Abiyah, if it's your will for us to leave this place and be out from under this debt and to get something else that is debt free, you have got to open a door.
Yeah.
You've got to open a door.
And guess what? He did.
He did.
He opened the door so we would have cash to pay for a house. And I mean, he opened it up within a month, wasn't it?
It was within 45 days.
It was fairly quick, a month and a half. You know, he opened up the door for us to get a house, pay cash for it, and not have to go into that debt. And we were like, wow, because we stood on faith.
We stood on faith. And, you know, just to give you more details of what the Most High did, that literally meant leaving Michigan. The cost of living is high up there.
Yes.
The taxes are extremely high. The taxes alone on that house was $4,000 a year, and it was just ridiculous. There are people in the city of Detroit whose house they may have only paid $3,000 or $4,000 from, but the taxes are just drowning them. You see, I did a video on that, I'd say about a month or two ago, and it's just ridiculous. And so we had to look elsewhere. We decided, okay, we're going to look down south. And we don't even know how we ended up in this town, in this place, but it was obviously the Most High's will. Yeah. What's funny is when we first looked at this house, they were asking a lot more for it. And so we were like, okay. And we didn't have the money for it at all. We didn't have nowhere near the money. We prayed, and we prayed, and we prayed. But what's funny is when we called about the house, they said there is a guy who already put in an offer on the house. And we were like, oh, well, keep on looking. So we actually made a few trips down here. When we got to these places, they were up in the hills and the mountains, and we were like, and no black people around. Yeah. We was like, we can't do this. I mean, some of the hills and the mountains, you felt like you were the Beverly Hillbillies in their neck of the woods, you know. Even in the gas stations, when we were asking for directions, they were looking like, we don't see no folk looking like y'all around here. We were like, this is definitely not the place.
That's right.
and so we just kept on praying. What's funny is we looked and this house came back on the market. It was like, wow, it's back on the market, baby. Yeah. And the price is not down. So we called the agent. She said, for some strange reason, the fella who had an offer on this property, he just decided, he put a deposit on it and everything. He just decided he didn't want it no more.
Just walked away from it.
We were like, what?
Yeah.
And they lowered the price. And so we didn't have the money, but we said, you know what, we have got to put an offer on it, and we're going to keep praying.
We put an offer on the house, and we didn't even have the money.
And the lady said, you got 30 days to close. We said, can you give us 45? She said, okay, I'll give you 45 days to close. And so on the 43rd day, we were able to close on this house. But the way the Most High did this, my sister was a real estate agent, and she would also, in Michigan, she would also take care of some of the properties that needed to be fixed. Yeah. This needs to be done to it, that needs to be done to it. So a property that she had came up in in Inkster, Michigan, and it needed a ton of work done to the property. Mm-hmm. So she said, y'all should put a bid in on it, on the work, because she had to, let different contractors or whatever do different things. And so she told us to put a bid in on it. We put that bid in on it, and she said, they accepted your bid. Yeah. That was a portion of it. Yeah. And then another property we were trying to sell, and we shared this testimony before, but it's years back. We couldn't even tell you the title of it. Another property we were trying to sell, or a rental property, it was actually an apartment building, and it was like a debt guzzler you wouldn't believe. So we actually put it on eBay. And we owned 75% of it, and the lender owned 25% of it. So we put it on eBay, and we said whoever buys this. We put all of the details in there. We said whoever buys this, you're only buying 75% interest. This is how much we own. This is our portion. This is what we're responsible for. This is how much of the building has been repaired. This is how much needs to be repaired. We just gave every detail. We got a gentleman from Florida called. He said, look, I'm sending you $400, just good faith deposit, just right now. He said, if I can't get the money to you within 5 days, you just keep the money. We were like, wow. And he said, you can keep the auction going. And so we did that. We kept getting bids. I was like, man, this is crazy, because we know real estate is off the chain, and Detroit is off the chain as far as certain things go, especially apartment buildings. But this guy from Pakistan, he actually lived in New York. He said, stop the auction. I want the building. Yeah. And we were like, wow. He said, I'm going to fly to Detroit in a couple of days, and we can close on it. We'll get in touch with a title company, get the title pool, get all of this done, get all of that done. He took care of everything, and he just bought our interest in the building. And we were like, at the time, we didn't know who we were. We said, look at God. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So it's like everything was closed. Every door was closed when we were trying to stay there and when we were trying to get another mortgage. But the minute this house became available, and we prayed and we asked Most High, if you want us to move, you have to bless us with the money. Yeah. Prayer changed things.
It sure did.
He just flung open doors unimagineable.
Yes.
I mean, even other things we were doing in business. We with a little bit of money we did have, I said, baby, we can't, we don't have enough to pay the mortgage. I said, we should invest this. At the time, we were selling on liquidation.com. And we said we should invest this and try to get us a truckload sold, just get, different items that we would buy. We would go to stores and get closeout merchandise, and we would go to this place and that place. And so we spent all of that money on just any closeouts that we can find.
Investing, pretty much. And the most high, we need another vehicle. Yeah. He blessed us with the money to pay cash for the vehicle. I mean, everything. It was like, he didn't want us to have any debt. And I said, man, we own we had purchased a home. We own our home free and clear. We had our vehicles free and clear. And we were sitting there scratching our head like, wow.
It's like we invested $1,800, the last money that we had in that truckload, and it sold for $5,000. So you all can do the math as to the profit we made on it. Yes. But this was us stepping out on faith, because we knew that we couldn't do anything else with the $1,800. It wasn't going to pay our bill for the next month, and we knew that we had to get this thing wrapped up. So it just seemed like doors were just opening every which way but loose, and we just thank the Most High for that. But that was our testimony to show you that you can have faith. If you don't want to be in debt, the Most High will open the door. We can only share with you what our experience was. You see, and we thank the Most High for, I'm going to say, alleviating us of that debt, because it was a lot of stress to have that monthly obligation like that. And like I said, we've shared this testimony before. And to the person who submitted the question, I mean, that's where we are with our faith in the Most High. We believe if there is a need, that we just have to pray, and we have to pray, and we have to pray until He opens up a door.
Opens the door. What's amazing is I remember that time, right? And I remember the scriptures that I sought the Most High for before we even went into any of this. I wanted to know what His will was concerning debt.
Yes.
And here's another scripture here. This is Romans chapter 13, verse 8. It says, owe no man anything but to love one another.
Yes.
For he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. And so he says, owe no man nothing. Don't owe no man anything. And so there's scriptures like that. There's other scriptures that I did research on usury. And let me tell you something. Years ago, I used to sell bi-weekly mortgages. And when I got this job as a salesman selling bi-weekly mortgages, I said, man, I was going to people's homes, and people would be like, I'm curious to see if this is for me. And I would show these people, I say, well, basically, bi-weekly mortgage, the way it works is you pay your mortgage every bi-weekly. Which in doing so, you'll actually add an extra month to your mortgage, because it's 52 weeks in a year. And when you do your calculations, you're actually making an extra payment every year. That extra payment every year, believe it or not, was chopping thousands off the mortgage bill. And so when I was selling bi-weekly mortgages, I would go to people's home. I would say, "Man, how much you pay for your home?" And she was like, "I pay for $100,000 for my home." Like, okay, $100,000. And how much is your payment? And she tell me what her payment was, right? That's okay. And how long of mortgage did you get? And she said 30 years. I said, okay. Let's do 30 years. Let's multiply 30 years to your mortgage payment and see what you're paying them, as opposed to what you paid for the house. And the people would be like, okay. When I would get done doing the math, they'd be like, they pay $100,000 for their home, right? And they'd look at it and be like, man, I'm paying them back $450,000, almost $500,000. But yeah. They would be sitting there looking at me like, oh man, you gotta be lying. I said, no, you do the math. Here's a calculator. Then do this, check it, and they'll sit there and say, oh my God. I mean, yep. I went to my mother. I said, Mama, I want to show you something. I said, how much you pay for it? She said, $65,000. I said, I'm gonna do the math and show you what your payments are. She showed me what her payments were, and I did the math. I said, do you know you're paying $250,000 for your home that you only paid $65,000 for? My mother, she was so outdone. She said, oh my God, I can't believe this. You know? And I said, yep. And I'm telling you, when you do your math and you really see how they're using you, usury. Yeah. It's called usury. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, and scripture is called usury.
It's called usury. And they're really using you big time to try to rob you of your funds. And so when I got to looking at all of the facts, I said, you know what, there's no way I can constantly get a mortgage and believe that I'm doing Yah's will.
Right.
It's just no way.
I want to share another testimony too. This is not our testimony, but this will give you something to think about. We remember when there was a church trying to, they were upgrading. Okay, they were moving from one location and they were getting a new church built. And, the whole thing was saints, the Most High, or God done blessed us. We got the money to get this church built. It's going to be a nice church, a $600,000 church, blah, 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 right? Now, the testimony was that God blessed them to upgrade from this place to this big $600,000 church, right? Yeah. And it wasn't, I think it was a year or two later that the church was foreclosed on because they couldn't keep up the payment.
They keep up the payment.
And so, how can that be a blessing when the bank just took it away like that? Get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
And so, that's one of those things that caused us to think too.
Yeah.
That if I don't make the payment on this, that the bank could just take it away. And so,
yeah,
that's one of those catch-22s.
Yeah.
You see, and so our take on a mortgage, and I know it's easier said than done. Everyone's faith is not the same, but sometimes you just have to wait on the Most High. Yeah. You got to pray, and you just got to trust and believe. And we had no other choice but to trust and believe.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this house had and still has a lot of repair issues. This house is more than 100 years old.
Yeah.
But we were willing to take on the things that needed to be done here. It was a foreclosure, so we got it dirt cheap. Yes. There was a real estate investor around here. He said, you guys stole that house, right? Yeah. Those are his words. He said, you guys stole that house because we got it sold dirt cheap.
Yes.
Being in real estate as investors, we learned how banks think, and they literally want it off of their books. They don't want to deal with it. Yes. They don't want to be sending nobody to cut the grass. They don't want to have nothing to do with these properties. They don't want them sitting on their books. And so sometimes you can just throw a lowball offer like boom and say, see if they're going to take it. Yeah. Boom, they took it.
Yep.
That's how it works, you see. Right. But as real estate investors, we learned that over the years that you can throw that low ball offer and sometimes they will take it. Sometimes they'll counter offer and they'll say, well, I'm going to take this, but I'll take this. And we'll say, okay, let's go for it, Yeah. So we did get it dirt cheap. It had a lot of repair issues. It still has a lot of repair issues, but it is home for now.
That's right.
Toda Abiyah.
Toda, yeah.
And so if you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves and get a little dirty doing some work and doing some repairs. Sometimes you might have to do that and not go for the big expensive $200,000 or $300,000 house or the $100,000 house. Sometimes you got to go into the lower end and just build it up to what you want it to be.
Yes.
You see.
Yeah, it's amazing, you know. So in essence, basically, we just following the Ruach. We knew that Most High didn't want us to go into debt anymore. That wasn't His will for us, and that. But the thing is, we had to become strong enough to accept His will.
Yes.
And say, you know what? If this isn't your will for us, then we got to stand on it. We got to stand on your word. We got to stand on what you're saying, and that's hard. I'll tell you right now, that's hard. And I see what this particular family who emailed me, what you're going through. You know, you can finally get this nice home and on so many acres, and now you can finally do a farm. And I know the situation you told me you were in. You were kind of in a situation before that, to where you were like, you're ready to get out of here. You're ready to get up out of the place where you were. I get that. I understand all of that. But at the same time, you still gotta learn. You gotta seek the Most High, and you gotta let Him guide you, because sometimes He allow you to go down roads to teach you a lesson.
Yes, He does. I mean, we've learned so many going down the wrong roads. We have learned so many.
I think about that, and I say, man, He taught me a valuable lesson with that home. And now that I think back, I would have never even done anything remotely near getting that house built.
Never.
You know, when I think back. And so I got to tell you, we got to learn how to follow the Ruach, listen to the Ruach, and not be so anxious. Kind of got to slow down a little bit. And I know sometimes your situations that you're in make you a little anxious. I get it. I totally get it. But at the same time, it's better to know the direction that you're going in and know what the Ruach is saying and go in the direction that He's telling you to, than to go in a direction and, you know, like we talked about the song, the Hawaiians made. He says,
"Are we really doing your will?"
Is that one? That's a nice one. And then the other one we said,
wherever I go, let your spirit follow me.
Yeah, let your spirit follow me. Say, no, that's backwards. Then wherever the spirit go, let me follow the spirit.
Yes.
And that's what the problem is. We're always going in directions, and then we try to pull the Most High in those directions. And the Most High's like, my spirit ain't going in those directions, though.
Yeah.
So, but since you want to go in that direction, I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Yes.
And once I teach you a lesson, then you'll be like, okay, I get it now. And I'm telling you, me and my wife, we learned the hard way about mortgages and being in debt, and I'm telling you, it is not the way to go, because in the long run, you're going to lose a lot. I guarantee you.
Yeah, even if it's just all of the extra money you're going to pay into it through usury and the stress of it all, you know. And I had to detach myself from that house. I did before he did. I detached myself so fast. And as a matter of fact, when we were pulling off, I was like, bye-bye, because I was detached.
Yeah.
You know, I was ready to move on and just, you know, live a simpler life and downgrade. I mean, this house is actually bigger, but it has a lot of repair issues. You see, a lot of repair issues, but I was willing to go for it. Yeah. You know, a lot of people think. Someone said the other day, y'all done moved out of the hood. I'm like, no, we haven't.
We in the hood.
This house is in the hood.
Yeah.
People get a perception about things. They see maybe the backdrop or the decoration or whatever, and they believe that we are out of the hood, that we are just out in suburbia somewhere. No, family, we are not out in suburbia. We are in the hood, the straight up hood, okay? And it's a small town, but we're in the hood. And I thank the Most High, because He had to give me some peace. Yeah. When we first came here, I saw that we were in the hood because when we were in Belleville, Michigan, we were out in the country, you see. Yeah. And when I saw all of these young people walking down the street, they music and they clothes and stuff, at first I got the wrong perception, you know.
Let me tell you how the Most High did things. Let me tell you how He did things. When we were trying to purchase the home, right, the Most High let a couple of snowstorms come to where we couldn't drive to see the house before we actually purchase it, to physically see it. We only saw the images that they had sent us on the internet.
Yes.
And so I was like, man. And so when we wasn't able to drive because of the snowstorms, we were forced either we're going to close on this house or we're going to lose our deposit. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just go ahead and close because we didn't put our money on it and it's just seemed like this direction we must go. The Most High knew, had we drove here and saw where the house was, we would be like, no way, because it was in the hood.
Right. And see, the deceptive thing was the picture, that one of the pictures showed a barn. And so we were like, wow, this must be out in the country.
Yeah, because we saw a barn on the
because
property.
it has a barn.
Yeah.
And so, again, we had the idea that this was in the country, and it was not. And it's nothing like Detroit. I mean, we're not saying that things don't happen here, but the things that we would hear that happen here is nothing like what you hear that happens in Detroit.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we thank the Most High for, just leading us and guiding us in this particular thing, to come out of the mortgage, come out of the debt, the death contract.
Yeah.
Which is what a mortgage is. And so many people get trapped in that thing, and it's hard to get out. And it's just not something that I would suggest anyone get involved in if you can help it. I'm not going to say that it's a sin. I don't know if it would be considered a sin to have one, but it's not something that I would advise anyone to do.
Exactly. So I tell you, to that particular family, I would say really seek the Most High and ask the Most High, is there a way that you can pretty much get out of that mortgage? And those of you that have mortgages out there, you should pray, then ask the Most High to guide you and give you understanding. Seek Him for understanding first, because before we leaped out on faith, we had understanding. He gave us understanding about debt, about mortgage, about all of that stuff in the scriptures. And then once we get that understanding, I was ready then afterwards. I said, okay, Father, matter of fact, I put him to the test. When I first saw this house here, I said, Father, I tell you what, if you give me that house right there,
I'll move.
Just that simple. Yep, I said it just like that. And at the time, when I checked the house, like my wife said, somebody had already put a bid on. I said, oh, well, so I guess I don't know what's going to happen now, because I asked if you can give me that house. And then when the house came available again, I was like, what?
And it was cheaper.
I said, wow, if we can get that house. I said, Father, y'all bless us. And He did. And so all I'm saying is, I think that He's looking for you to increase your understanding, your knowledge, and He's looking for you to be strong in faith and step out on faith and allow Him to bless you so that you can be debt free also. You don't need all that debt over your head. Trust me. Well, anyway,
it's kind of late, so we are going to sign off now.
Yes, that's right.
We love you, family, and thank you for sitting through all of this.
Yes, absolutely. And shalom.
Shalom.